can't believe I'm saying this, but I think I have to move back home. I haven't lived at home in over 12 years, and it's the last thing I thought I would ever have to do. I have to be out of my apartment by the end of the month, and there's nothing I hate more than moving. Everything has gotten so expensive. The rent increases have been ridiculous. Just in general, I hate moving. The whole process of looking for apartments, if I find something, packing up, not having my stuff when I need it. I don't do well in messy environments. Moving takes up so much of your energy, and I don't know if anyone else feels this way. I feel like it becomes this milestone and makes me reflect on where I am in life, and from where I'm standing, I did not think that this is where I'd be at this stage in life. Unfortunately, if I don't find something soon, I think home is gonna be home again. I don't know if anyone else is going through this stage, but yeah, that's where my life is right now.
No hate, no shade, no the lady that tweeted this, but a lady said, at 30 years old, you telling me that you moving back in with your parents is just IDK. And what I do care is 45% of millennials and more Gen Zers is moving back in with their parents. And I can tell you why. Firstly, saying things like broke people shouldn't date makes a lot of sense, and I too second that notion. However, it is not realistic. Human beings are going to try to find a companion, and if I'm being honest, the cheapest thing to do right now is Netflix and with Netflix raising their rates every 3.5 months, that's becoming too expensive. We're going to have to bend it over at Barnes & Nobles. People go home to save money and save themselves from drowning in our student loan debt-filled, ratchet-ass economy river, not to impress other people. There is nothing wrong with having standards or wanting a man that's on his feet. However, if you know you cannot respect a man that has fallen off financially, there's no reason to stay in that relationship, belittle him, or ensure that both of you have a negative experience. Just go ahead and find you a man that's more equipped in this economy. And for those listening to this like, oh yeah, tell her to leave. Typical black single woman rhetoric. Yeah. Leave him. Because if you think a broke man is mean, you ain't never seen a woman with a broke man that wishes he had money. Them ladies are cruel.
Just when I thought I was going to have a seamless move out day, the devil tried me once again. And if this is not my sign to officially get out of the city, at least for now, this is my sign. And you know what the crazy thing is? I had a dream last night that somebody broke into my car and stole my stuff, and it was my neighbor. And when I woke up, my car was broken into. And you know what's even crazier? The neighbor who was in my dream I've never seen before, and I saw him today for the first time, and he was the person that was in my dream, and it was absolutely crazy. I even told the police officer, I think somebody in this neighborhood did it, and you're not going to talk me out of it. I'm hell-bent on, excuse my language, I am very hell-bent on, I think my neighbor did it, okay? I am tired. I am sick. I have not eaten. I am over today. I have got to get out of this apartment complex. Everything that could have went wrong. Half of the stuff y'all see in these videos, I had to throw away because I simply don't even have the room in my car anymore. Not only that, but I can only fit so many things because the window that's broken, I can't have anything leaning against that because I don't need anything falling out. So when I tell you I'm just ready to go, I'm ready to go. But now I'm waiting on the maintenance person to bring me a screwdriver so I can take my Ring camera down, and nobody is answering the phone, and the leasing office is closed. So, y'all, I can't even stress. Like, I thought I might want to move back to Atlanta sometime soon, but I feel like God has got other plans for me. I have cried, and I have cried today, and I'm still in tears about how my day has gone.
When you're 39 years old and have to move in back with your parents, and you live in California and real estate home prices are through the roof, and this is just 1/3 of their front yard. This piece right here is looking real nice, real guest house nice.
Ooh, this is nice, girl. This is you right here. Okay.
Tell you guys right now, just move home. Just moved back home. I'm 29 years old. I just moved from living in the city by myself, Chicago, to the suburbs. in my parents' house. And my parents don't have a huge, big, fancy house. You know, we're not rich or anything like that. But to have the opportunity to live at home and not be so stressed out all the time about paying $2,000 a month in rent, it's priceless. It's priceless. Do you guys know how much money I have now? How many things I can do? Okay, I could go get Botox anytime I want. I could buy a house in 2 years if I wanted.
Hi, my name is Callie. I'm 30, and I just moved back in with my parents. Let's talk about it. I bought a house in 2020, moved in 2021, lived there for about 2.5 years, and then I sold it about a month ago. Made a good amount of money on it, and now I am staying with my parents until we find a new house that we would like to buy. It's been pretty interesting so far. Not bad, but interesting. I moved on July 31st, so it's been 2 weeks, almost 3 weeks since I moved. I guess 3 weeks. And yeah, I just don't see a lot of people going through the same experience. And if they are, they're not sharing it. So I want to share my experience. I want to share this journey of living with my parents again as a grown adult and buying a new house. And I want you guys to come with me.
I am 24 years old, living at home with my parents, and moving back home was one of the best decisions I've made. Before anyone comes at me to say I am leeching off my parents, I have my own career and I make more than the average in my age group. I contribute money to my parents every month, and I pay for all of our vacations. After college, my full-time offer was in tech based in the Bay Area, and it's also where I'm from. And I wanted to stay in the Bay Area to grow my career, and it's a big tech hub. I also couldn't justify paying $2,000 plus in rent in the Bay when I'm originally from here, and my day-to-day wouldn't really look that different. So by moving home, I'm essentially saving around $30,000 a year that would have went to rent money, which was great initially because I honestly initially moved home to save money, but then I realized something way more important. I later saw a stat online that said that adult children only see their parents 50 to 60 more times before they pass away, which when you add it up is around 2 months of time of seeing your parents before you can't see them anymore. And that really put things in perspective for me. Our time with our parents is honestly so finite when you think about it. And as an only child, I want to spend as much time as I can with my parents. I don't want to live with the regret that I haven't seen my parents often enough. My parents also had me later in life, so I have a more innate fear of not having my parents around. I feel like in American culture, it's a really big thing to have parents push their kids out and live by themselves really early on. But in Asian culture, a lot of the values are more centered around family and helping each other out. For example, my parents really like having me around because since I'm the only child, they are pretty lonely when I'm not there. So I also give them some emotional support. We also didn't grow up in the best financial situations, so me contributing to the family and helping with like household chores and stuff helps them a lot too, and the resources also stay within the family that way. It also helps me feel less lonely because I also don't like living by myself, and if I'm gonna get roommates, I'd rather have those roommates be my parents. There's also a stigma associated with living with your parents, and I feel like it's because people think that if you live at home, you're lazy, but there is a difference between doing nothing all day versus being productive, having a career, and working on yourself, plus contributing to the household.
I'm 28 years old, and I just moved back in with my mom and dad in their house. So I'm going to tell you guys why and talk on going backwards in your 20s. Some might ask, why did you move back after living on your own for 5 years and having a nice 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom apartment to live in a little room that you do not fit in? Society definitely puts time limits and expectations on people that I don't believe in anymore. I did for a long time, and I feel like that's why I stayed living out on my own, because I felt like it would be going against everything to move back in with my parents. I also felt like it was going to make me look less accomplished if I said I lived out on my own for so long to just go back to my parents' house. But if I listened to the world's rules, then I would already be married right now with kids. That's not happening. I feel like this world pushes that you're less of a person if you don't do the steps that they tell you to do, and that is completely false. I think if we all took the pressure off of what you had to be by a certain age, we would all be less stressed and more at peace and more happy. When I tell y'all, I have not been this happy in such a long time by just listening to myself and God, not listening to whatever the world says I need to be. Everyone has their own timelines. Everyone has their own lifespans. They're not designed to be the same. We're comparing ourselves to everyone else. So unrealistic to compare yourself to people who have bought houses at such young ages in the past, because the past is not the present. My parents bought their house for $150,000. Today, their house is going for $600,000. I personally can't afford to have my own house right now, so I might as well live in my parents and help my family. I'm looking at this like a slingshot. I'm taking myself backwards to launch myself forward, and just by living here for the few months that I have, I've already saved thousands of dollars. I'm finally going to tell you guys though why I moved back in and what had happened that led me to this point. I know you guys have asked and I've avoided, so I'll tell you now. As you guys know, I lived in a garage apartment and I moved into it in February of 2023, which means my lease was officially up February 2024. I felt so strongly when it was time to re-sign my lease that God told me, do not do that. I have better for you. Trust me. Did I trust him? No, hand me those papers, girl. We're signing. Yeah, I went against him and I signed another 6 months. Mental health at that point was already on the floor. So I don't think staying alone and being by myself 24/7 helped that at all. It didn't. There would be days, 24-hour span, where I wouldn't even open my mouth to talk. The way that I just watched myself declining that whole time because I was too stubborn. There is no such thing as going backwards, because every single day you are evolving with age. Being in an apartment all day and not seeing life because I couldn't afford to was just hurting me. I feel like things had to get really bad in order for me to realize what was best for me. But also I did mention I woke up in the middle of the night and I left my apartment and I haven't been back since. Something terrifying did happen multiple times in my old apartment. Thankful that they did, because if it didn't happen that way, then I would still be stuck there. And I was still stuck in contract, so I was paying on my apartment's rent and I had to pay rent here. It's just my morals and my respect. Chose to pay rent here because I'm not gonna take up somebody's space and not give them anything. My grandma had just passed away as well in June, and I felt like this was the perfect time for me to ground myself again with my family. Plus, you guys don't understand like how nice it's been that if I want to have a conversation, I have 5 individuals living with me. And if I'm feeling bored, my family and I were like this. So I just get to go sit on their bed and hang out with them. I literally feel like I'm a kid again. Home cooked meals, have to be home by a certain time so my parents don't freak out. And we're collecting plushies. If you have been struggling or going back and forth and trying to figure out what the right choices are for you, pray about it. Ask God to show you. Ask yourself and stop listening to everybody else. Only you know yourself and the right choices for yourself. So excited to be back and to show you guys my crazy family. I'm gonna do so much more videos with them because I actually live here. I'm also going to do a bunch of videos on like the transitioning phase from living on your own to moving back home. I'm so thankful for all of you guys. I missed you guys and I can't wait to post again. If y'all stayed this long, leave a heart in the chat so I can go spam your page. Love you guys.
So clean the house, clear the drawers, mop the floors, stand tall like no one's ever been here before.
Morning guys, I'm just in the car really quickly doing my makeup before I go to work because I never have time in the mornings. Little update, so I viewed the property on Saturday and it was beautiful, like gorgeous house, like the decor inside was lovely, everything was perfect, good location. So I put an offer in, you know, with what's online on Rightmove. I put the offer in, the asking price. So they've come back and said they've had bigger offers coming in. So have a think over the weekend and let me know what you want to do. So I had a little think and I can afford to put more money in, but I don't want to be having a huge mortgage and doing it, you know, with not as much savings behind me as I'd like to. I've got savings, but I've got not enough to probably do this right now. So the other option is my mum has kindly offered to have me back at their house with my daughter. Obviously she'll be half with me, half with her dad, so it's not going to be too full on, but I know people do this and people go back to mum and dad's to save money to buy a house. I know people do this, but like, I think my decision has been made. I think it's quite clear what the right thing to do is. Like, I could be saving £2,000 a month if I did this, and no one ever gets this opportunity like to do this if it wasn't for moving back in with mum and dad. So a part of me is just like, just do it, Eloise. Like, it's going to be a lot, but just think of like the long-term goal, like getting that house. So yeah, what, you know, if people who've done this, who've moved back in, like, what's it like, you know, like, did you save enough money and then get your dream home? Like, I want to hear positive like stories about this. So yeah, like, I think that's the right thing to do, you know, money wise, and just having money behind me, like when I come to buy my house, having savings behind me and just not being like struggling, you know. So yeah, let me know your thoughts, moving back in mum and dad, and yeah, let me know what you think.
I'm 30 and I still live at home with my parents. I'm sure some of you will be turned off by this, or some of you may be able to relate, but I thought it would be interesting to kind of talk about the way we live life now compared to 10 years ago, 20 years ago. Growing up, living at home past like going to school, like university, college, whatever it may be, was seen as like embarrassment and like super wrong. Obviously, like when I grew up, it was like you go to university, you get your degree, then you get a job straight away, and then you follow those steps, like meet your partner, get a dog, get your house, have your kid, do all those things. But I've never been that person. Like, I have never ever followed the steps, societal steps that have been kind of like put into me, and I guess what my parents did when they were growing up. So for me, that just like wasn't the way things happened. And I'm sure there's a lot of people that are following those steps and they're really, really happy. And there's nothing wrong with that, honestly. But I feel like there's still a lot of people that did follow those steps and they're not happy. Maybe they got married really young and they found out that their partner and themselves grew apart, or whatever it may be. Like, zero judgment, you do you. But for me, that just wasn't, what happened. My 20s were like kind of different, and the first like 6 of them really were spent being ill. And so there was no kind of like thought of me living by myself. I obviously very wanted my own place, but I never could afford to do it. And I didn't see myself really having a future, so I didn't invest in my future. I didn't have a savings or anything like that. I just spent money because I didn't think I would make it past the age of 25. So for me, like setting up savings accounts for my future home or apartment or whatever just like wasn't a thing. And I'm sure like maybe there'll be someone else who can relate, but I just never did that. And I'm 30, but I spent the last 5 years of my life running a business and I didn't really make any money out of it. And there's so much to go into that, but that's the reality of kind of where my life is at right now. And you can say whatever you want, but that's the cards I've been dealt, so that's what I'm working with. And then I absolutely want my own place. I don't want to live with my parents forever. I'm super, super driven to get my own place by the end of this year, but we'll see what happens. If I don't hit that goal, it's not going to be the end of the world. I'll be 31 at the end of this year, and obviously I will want to be living by myself, but life is really expensive right now, especially if you live in Canada. Then you know the housing market is absolutely bonkers. Like, you can't find a nice house under 500K anymore. And most houses are like 800 plus now, and rent is also ridiculous. Like, to rent by myself is like 2,500 plus. And
I'm sure there's a lot of people that can afford that, but there's a lot of people that can't because that's just rent. And then the grocery prices here are absolutely insane. Like, if you're from Canada, then you know inflation has really done us hard, especially when it comes to housing and groceries and gas. And those are just like the necessities. Like, that's not adding in like experiences, life, anything like that. So it can be super discouraging to kind of like be at a state where obviously I want to be living by myself, but I can't afford to right now, and that is my reality. And I'm sure there's a lot of other people that are in similar situations. Maybe they've gone through some major hardships in life and they've had to move back home with their parents while they figure things out. And there's nothing wrong with that. I used to be super ashamed, super embarrassed for my whole 20s at the fact that I was still living at home and just thought that like people would think of me differently. But it's really cool. And I honestly don't see a ton of people online around my age who are still living at home. And that's just like, I'm not getting served that. I'm getting served like the people that are either with their partners or have their own apartments or have their own houses already, mostly in the US, but in Canada, I'm not seeing that. And I'm just not finding like late 20s, early 30s who are still living with their parents. So I want to be that person for other people that also aren't finding that. And I wanted to like kind of share this perspective that I'm kind of coming into realization now, and a lot of people have been telling me about this, is that this time spent with my parents was truly a gift. Like, I have become so close to my parents. My mom is literally my best friend. I love spending time with them. We eat dinner together every night, which may not be normal for someone who's 30 with their parents. And that's just like my reality. And I know one day I'll be able to look back on this last, like, how long have I been living at home? Since I was 23. Last like 7-8 years. And be like super grateful at the time I got with my parents, because obviously I know, which I hate this, is that they're not going to live forever. I'm not going to live forever. And I don't know how long, right? We have no idea how long we're all going to be on this earth. But the fact that I got this extra time with them that maybe I wouldn't have gotten before if I had met someone or if I was living somewhere else. Like, I don't know. I think there's a different perspective we can take on living at home with our parents when we're in our like late 20s, 30s, late 30s, whatever it may be, and just kind of let go of the shame and the embarrassment. And if you want to reflect that on me, that's fine, but I'm pretty secure and I'm working towards it. And I know there's a lot of other people that are too. So if you're also living at home with your parents and you're 30 or late 20s or 20s, whatever it may be, and you feel like you're behind, you're not behind. You're on your own journey and you're following your own life journey, and you can't compare to anybody else. So I just wanted to let you know that.